While UFC Baku won't go down as the most exciting fight card of 2025, it will go down with some interesting points. We had 12 fights total. 10 of them went to a decision, but we had 5 underdog wins to make it one of the more volatile fight cards of the year. While it wasn't wildly exciting top to bottom, I managed to be entertained and I enjoyed myself for a decent midday fight card. My name is Angelo. This is We Want Picks, and I'm going to recap and react to every single fight from UFC Baku. Before we talk about the fights, let's talk about the bets. Overall, the bets were hit and miss. We had a couple of great spots, a couple of terrible ones. I was down $63, and while that sucks, it doesn't suck as bad as my personal life this week because I did lose my dog the other day, and somehow that is getting harder and harder every single day. I thought by now we'd be good to go, but that's not the case. Hoping the fights would revive me. Like, hey, Saturday, it's a nice midday fight card, pretty good card. I'll enjoy myself. The bets will hit, and we'll be off to the promised land. Unfortunately, some bets hit. I had the Tagir Ulanbekov oral buy parlay. I had the Mohammed Naimov, and then the Jung over 2.5 parlay, and then a couple of missed bets. I mentioned I'm down $63. Jacob was on vacation this whole week, and so were most of his bets. He did hit that Khalil Tree running line. And then Bet Sam hits another slam of the week. I like to sit here and say the safety parlay is the beacon of stability. And while long-term, the hit rate on the safety parlay is absolutely insane, Bet Sam's slam of the week is right there. And he probably has a better model than I do because the slam of the week isn't just a parlay. Sometimes it's a single bet that he goes all in on. Sometimes it is a parlay. This week, it happened to be a parlay, and it gets him back on track. Bet Sam's up a couple of bucks. I'm down a few bucks, but we have an awesome couple of weeks ahead of us. Next week is UFC 317. I will be there for half of it. I'll be there for Thursday, Friday, and I'm heading back Saturday to watch the fights at home, but I will be in Vegas for a little bit. After that, we have the Derek Lewis fight card. After that, we have UFC 318, and then after that, we have UFC Abu Dhabi or maybe Saudi Arabia. I forget which one, but it's the Robert Whittaker, Renier de Rider fight card. If you do want to check out all the bets and the tools for every single one of these fight cards, it's only $10. I don't think you know how insignificant $10. It's $10. $2.50 per card. You unlock every pick, every bet, and every tool. Check out the tools if you haven't done so. Just go to WeWantPicks.com. There's a Become a Member button at the top. Just click that, and you're good to go. Let's talk about these fights. We opened up with a dog. Right off the rip, we had an underdog win. And what's funny about making picks and talking about fights in this space is people love to look at the actual bottom line and not always listen to the narrative. Because I came into this and I said, listen, I'm going to pick Hamdy because he is an Olympic wrestler and he should have some early success. Even if he gasses, we should be okay. But I would never in 1 million years bet on this fight ever. Never, ever, ever, ever would I consider betting on this fight. And people like to say, oh, he picked Hamdy. Hamdy lost. But there's nuances there because I did talk about the fact that Hamdy has no cardio. We saw that. Talked about the fact that despite being an Olympic wrestler, he doesn't wrestle very often. And we saw that. This guy is an Olympic wrestler. He shows up with tits bigger than mine. Actually, that's not even a good one because I don't have big tits. You guys can make fun of my tummy, but the tits are good. The guy shows up with a C cup, almost no cardio, and doesn't even attempt to wrestle. I don't understand how you're an Olympic wrestler who doesn't attempt to wrestle. With that being said, he did have some success striking. He was out striking Usman. He had good success striking early, and then he's fat, so he faded. This is also a former steroid user. So we have an Olympic wrestler who is a known steroid user who doesn't have enough cardio to continue a win over a guy that has 1 foot out the door. This week, the community's talking about how Kamaru Usman said that his younger brother, Mohammed Usman, doesn't know if he wants to continue fighting. So overall, good on Muhammad, right? He kept his hands going. He stayed busy, stayed athletic. He was in good enough shape to fight for 3 rounds. It took the first round off, won the next 2 rounds. Pretty straightforward fight. I don't know what else to say. Hamdy needs to be cut. The guy who's a steroid user, he got suspended. Cut him then. But you know what? He's technically undefeated. We'll bring him back. He comes back, has a terrible performance in his last fight against Jamahal Pogue. Comes back here, another terrible performance. So he's an Olympic wrestler who's not exciting, doesn't wrestle, and did steroids. We got to be rid of him. And good for Mohammed Usman. Came in here, pretty big underdog, 2-1 dog. Was able to just stay in shape. The bare minimum is be in shape. That is quite literally the bare minimum. That's the one thing that you can work on. Right? You can go hit mitts, but maybe your hand-eye coordination isn't great. You can hit mitts and maybe you don't have the power. You could throw leg kicks and maybe you don't have the balance. Some of these things are God-given, some you can earn. But cardio you can earn. Hamdy needs to be gone. Congratulations to Mohammed Usman. Then we had a very fun fight. Tagir Ulanbekov versus Azat Maksum. This was a fun fight. This also was not a great call. This was not a good call by the judges. I do not think Tagir won this fight. And listen, I'm happy he did. That cashed my bet. That cashed Sam's slam of the week. So I'm happy, right? I'll take my money. But a 30-27 was absurd. And not only was there one 30-27 scorecard, there were two 30-27 scorecards. And what you're looking at here is a picture of Tagir Ulanbekov holding Azat Maksum up in the air. Got the single, picked it up. Azat lands on his feet and does not get taken down. In fact, he wasn't taken down one time in this fight. In fact, there was only one takedown in this entire fight, and it was Azat who took down Tagir. And then Tagir grabbed the fence in one of the most blatant fence grabs we've ever seen. And Azat still manages to stay on his back, get some control. Azat had some success striking. Azat had success grappling. I thought Azat won this fight. Now, the word robbery gets thrown around way too often in here. I would not necessarily call it a robbery because Tagir's striking did look good. Tagir's striking was better than his wrestling in this fight. He could not get the takedowns, but he did land clean a handful of times. I think the overall issue here for Azat was he was just a little small. He had his back against the cage a couple times, and obviously he was fighting in enemy territory. I think the most absurd thing, though, is two 30-27s. This should have been a split decision. If I am a judge, I likely go 29-28 Azat. But if it went 29-28 for Tagir, not crazy. If it's a split decision, not crazy. Two 30-27s and then a 29-28, and it was unanimous, that's kind of crazy, right? Like, you guys love telling me how bad some of my judging takes are. That can't be a bad. There's no way I look at the comments on this video later and somebody is like, terrible take on the Tagir fight. There's no way. That cannot be. That can't be. Overall, both of these guys actually looked pretty good. It was just a very competitive, well-matched fight. When you get two really good guys, it's not going to be dominant one way or the other. So I enjoyed the fight as a fan. Betting on the fight, I made some money. So I'm good with this. I just think the scorecard was a little crazy. And Azat Maksum technically is 1-2 in the UFC, but the reality is he should be 2-1. He clearly lost the Charles Johnson fight, but this fight was very close. The Ulanbekov fight should have ended in an upset, but this one did. Klaudia Sygula, another big underdog on this card, gets it done. And she did it by just spamming overhands. Just spamming overhands. Just boom, boom. Boom, boom. Every single punch she threw landed directly on Irina's face. Irina came out with a brand new haircut. Her UFC picture, she was looking like Ivan Drago's wife, and now she's looking like Hanson, just a boy band member. Just beautiful perm, nice little mop top. Came out here, but that mop was absorbing blood from her face and flopping around on her head. This was a good old-fashioned slug fight. This was not very technical. There wasn't a lot of high-level back-and-forth exchanges. It was just stand there and bomb overhands on both sides of that octagon. It was a fun fight to watch, honestly, in a card loaded with decisions, some of them boring. This was a fun fight, and I think that's why I enjoyed the day. Did everything go my way? No, of course not, but I'm a fight fan. I love fights. I love UFC. I've seen every single event since day one. This isn't some COVID bandwagon stuff. This isn't like some, ooh, Conor's famous. I have been watching every single fight since the day they aired. My cousins had a D-scrambler back in the day when the TV channels were scrambled and pay-per-views were scrambled. You could watch the Spice Channel. The audio worked. I would watch every single one, go to his house, watch the fights. I've seen them all since day one. I love fights. So I enjoyed this fight because this was just a throwback of exciting fights. Two people who were not afraid to get after it. Because we had a couple of staring contests on this card. But this was not. Two women got after it. The 2-year layoff for Irina showed. Took her a little while to get going. She started to build a little bit of momentum and then just started to get her ass kicked again. So another upset here. Klaudia Sygula gets her first UFC win. Neither one of these women are ever going to be like in a ranking or working through any meaningful win streak, but they're fun. And as long as you're fun and you're exciting, there will be a place for you on these fight cards. So good for them. They got after it. I enjoyed this fight. Then we went to another lady fight where they got after it. Look at Melissa Mullins' face. A couple of things, okay? You people, the comment people, If you go back to my UFC Baku quick picks video, I release a brand new video every Sunday morning, early as shit, breaking down the next fight card. And I talked about this fight. I broke it down. And everybody's like, this was a rematch, you know. This was a rematch. Oh, Melissa Mullins by murder is a rematch. Angelo, you didn't mention it's a rematch. And I said every single time, guys, if it is a rematch and the first fight is more than like a year or two, I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck. That was a year or two ago. You know how much has changed? Especially with a couple of women this early in their career. I don't give a fuck. And this fight was a perfect example of why I don't give a fuck. This didn't look like their first fight, did it? Their first fight was Darya dotting up Melissa, Melissa getting the easiest takedowns of her entire life, and then finishing on top. That was the first one. In this fight, we had Darya lighting up Melissa Mullins early. Melissa Mullins survives, throws back. She does get a takedown, but there's not that easy finish everybody was planning on. And then the second round, all of a sudden, Melissa's taking over. Melissa's striking looks good. Melissa's landing clean. This was another fight that honestly could have gone to Melissa because she had some success striking. There was some success grappling. I think overall the issue for Melissa was, I mean, it took 3 punches and her face was fucked. Just immediately red and bloody and garbage. So the lesson here is I understand when there's a rematch, you just want to look at the first fight and say, run it back. It's the same thing. But that's not the reality, especially when there are long periods of time. We're talking 3 or 4 years between these two fights. And it was that early in their career. It's not like they peaked and they're already as good as they're going to be and that's when they fought and then they're fighting again later. No, it was early in their career. They have obviously both improved since then. They're different fighters, and this was a different fight. I was fighting for my life all week with people being like, this is a rematch. I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck. Now, when I talked about the Merab-Sean O'Malley fight, that was a rematch from 8 months ago. That's the exact same fight. Like, nothing's changed in 8 months. That is the same fight. So that being a rematch matters very much. This didn't matter at all. Melissa Mullins just showed the world how insanely tough she is. Darya showed that she worked on her takedown defense and has incredible power. What's crazy about Melissa, and I saw in the Discord people like, oh, she's an idiot. She waited till the 3rd round to wrestle. It's not that she waited. She got fucked up early. She was barely standing. Like she was not thinking clearly. She didn't have her wits about her. And that happened almost immediately. Soon as this fight started, Darya came across the cage. Bah, 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 bah. And all of a sudden, Melissa's like, doesn't know what's going on. So it's easy to be like, why did you wait to wrestle? You're an idiot. Which, yeah, that could be true because Melissa said straight up, this is the hardest I've ever been hit was against Darya. So then she was coming back into this fight. You'd think she'd be diving at legs. But she didn't even have a chance to do that because she got lit up early and it took her a long time to shake those cobwebs. So this was another very fun fight. Melissa Mullins is insanely tough. Darya, great hands. Let's just take the losers of these fights and run it back. Although Melissa Mullins fought the other 2 women already and already beat them. So maybe we don't do that. But let's take Darya and have her fight Irina. Klaudia. Because Klaudia wanted to spam overhands. Darya has great striking. Just put those 2 together. That could be a ton of fun. I don't know what you do with Melissa, but she's insanely tough. She's always going to be sort of a fun fighter because she's going to come forward. She's going to bomb. She's going to try to fight you. She's not going to run away and hide. Then we had a wild back and forth fight. We had Jun Young Park taking on Ismail Naurdiev. Damn it. They said it on the broadcast 10 times. I was like, oh, remember it. And I didn't. This was a wild fight because Jun Young Park won this fight. And he got 2 points. And I got to look at the scorecards to see if he even needed the 2 points. I don't know if he did. It didn't feel like a close fight after the first round. In the first round, it felt like a very close fight. Ismail was moving forward. He was landing clean. Ismail was the cleaner, faster, better striker in that first round. He was landing clean, good combinations. He was cracking Park. A few times, Park, like his head wobbled a little. I was like, oh shit, Ismail might be able to do something here. But I had the over 2.5 on this fight. So I was like, let's see what happens. Then all of a sudden, I believe it was the second round, Ismail ends up in some exchange. He's got Park on one knee and a hand, and Ismail just knees him in the face. Wildly illegal. There's a knee on the ground. I don't care what commission, what rule set, knee on the ground, downed opponent, kneed him right into the face. Done. The referee stops it for a timeout. Ismail at this point is jumping on the cage, celebrating. celebrating on the cage because he thought he won. And I'm about to say something and you guys can get your panties in a wad because nobody actually listens to words, right? At that point in time, Ismail has a full adrenaline dump. Think about it. You think you just won on the wild stage by knockout. He thought he won. He straight up celebrated. He thought he won. Didn't realize it was illegal at all. He thought he won that fight. He's sitting on the turnbuckle, celebrating like this. An insane adrenaline dump. Full-blown adrenaline dump. Only to turn around and see that the fight is not over. It was a timeout. And now Park, who can't see out of that eye. You can see in this picture, that eye is screwed. He cannot see out of that eye. The referees are trying to figure out what to do. They're getting a translator. The doctors come in. The doctors are looking at the eye. Everybody's trying to figure out what to do. I thought they were going to stop it right then and there. And if they did, it should have been a DQ because that was in a very illegal strike. And it wasn't an accident. That's not like it was a headbutt when you were coming in with your head down. That was a straight up, a very intentional knee. Whether he realized it was against the ground their opponent or not, doesn't matter. The knee was intentional. Should have been a DQ. But Park is like the toughest dude on the planet, says, I'm going to keep fighting. I'm going to keep fighting. I'm going to keep fighting. So Park continues to fight. And not only does he continue to fight, he dominates from that point forward. Now, the reason I said the adrenaline dump, I do think that was a bit of a factor there. Now, all credit in the world to Jun-Yun Park. This was his fight. He should have won. He did win. He dominated. He should be a huge fan favorite. They should give him a bonus. I'm filming this like immediately after the event was over, so I don't know if he got a bonus. If he didn't, they should give him one. And they should give him much more than $50,000. Jun-Yun Park made a mediocre fight card pretty exciting because he came back and the fans went crazy. With that being said, I think he had all of that success, or I think that success came easy to him at the end because Ismail was just, at that point, was like, done. Like, what? I was done. Full adrenaline dump, done. Park is an absolute savage. Ismail made a mistake. Whether he was going to lose that fight or not, no matter what. I mean, it probably, I guess. They're not going to run this fight back, but Ismail's too small for this weight class. He needs to go down to welterweight. He needs to stay at welterweight. And Jun-Yun Park, listen, he's never going to be vying for a title, but keep giving him fun, exciting fights and pay him accordingly. Let's turn him into the next Cowboy Cerrone, right? Fun, exciting fights, a guy that you're just going to pay a ton of money to because you know for a fact he's going to be putting on a show for the fans. And you see the quote here is, whoopsie, 2 points. The referee took away 2 points. 2 points. I've never seen it. The staff, the booth staff said they'd never seen it, and then the producer went into their ear and said, actually, it did happen when John Jones kneed Anthony Smith in that title fight. So I guess it was similar circumstances. I watched that fight, but remembering a fight from 8 years ago is just not something my old ass is going to do. So just a wild exchange, weird change of events, and Jun-Yun Park going down as an absolute badass. Then we had the biggest upset on the card, and a massive upset in general. 2025 has been the year of tremendous upsets. We had Seokhyeon Ko beat Oban Elliott. Oban Elliott was like a minus 450 favorite. So a 4-1 favorite. And normally, like when Umar Sy lost last week, I'd sit here and say what a garbage fighter and trash and he sucks and, don't ever bet on the French. But that's not what's going to happen here because this wasn't about Oban sucking. Because I didn't watch this and say, wow, Oban sucks. I watched this and said, Ko is very good. Now, part of the problem for Oban here is it was very clear he was afraid of the power early. He didn't engage. He stayed too far away. He committed to nothing. Oban committed to nothing. He would throw one strike, immediately pull it back, and start to circle because he was very, very clearly afraid of the power that was coming his way. And because he was afraid of the power and because he was circling like crazy and backing up and trying to avoid getting hit, he was never able to find a rhythm. He didn't have any success. So am I going to say he sucks? No. He was afraid of the power. Then he tried to wrestle. He did not have the better wrestling. And everybody wants to talk, well, Cole was Sambo champion. Nobody expected this to become a grappling match. Nobody. This was supposed to be, he calls himself the Korean Mike Tyson. He calls himself that. Because that's how he wants to fight. The wild stance and the insane speed and power. That's how he wants to fight. That is how he tried to fight. That is how he did fight until Oban started shooting takedowns. And when Oban started shooting takedowns, it just initiates the grappling exchanges, and Ko won those as well. This was a great performance by Ko. Now, what I'm not going to do is leave this and be like, Ko's the truth. This guy's the man. He does have a very good record, obviously, but he's got a ridiculous stance, fully exposed to be getting hit, and he is stiff as a board. He is stiff. He moves forward his whole body. It's not just jab, punch, move, flow. His whole body moves. If he fights somebody who is not afraid to engage, fight somebody with a good enough chin to just get after it, somebody who's not just going to shoot desperate takedowns from 8 miles away, that will be very interesting. So great performance by Ko. Unbelievable performance by him. This is not a pan Oban, what an overrated hack, he sucks. This was just a really tough matchup for him because he was too worried about the power coming his way and wasn't ever able to hit a rhythm, and because of that, he didn't have any success. So overall, this was like, oh boy, this night is fucking wild. Because at this point, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This was the 6th fight. And up until this point, we have only had 2 favorites win. We had 4 underdogs win, 2 favorites win, one of them Tagir, who shouldn't have won. So it was basically 5 underdogs had won up until this point on the fight card. And it was like, oh my God, what are we doing? And if you had a tricky fight card, you need a couple of bucks, we have some sportsbook affiliate partners. Just go to WeWantPicks.com/bets. They're affiliate links. You use the link, you sign up, you make an account. They're going to pay us a one-time commission, and I'm going to slice off some of that money and give you a one-time payment. It's very, very simple. We get some money, we share it with you. Very simple. You want $50, we'll send you $50. Go to WeWantPicks.com/bets. Use the link, sign up, make a deposit, get yourself a couple of bucks, and we got some really good fight cards coming up where you can spend that money. That took us to the main card. This caption here says Bogdan the Bulldog. Bogdan did not win this fight. I don't think he won this fight. I did not think this was a robbery. The decision felt correct to me because not a lot happened in this fight. Mohammed opened up the fight card with a spinning back heel kick that landed. It didn't do anything real damage, but it landed and it was flashy. The rest of it was a bit of a staring contest, a couple of random grappling exchanges, but pretty even. Second round, pretty even. Third round, Mohammed Naimov gets taken down, then wins a scramble to end up on top. The majority of that round's on top. Mohammed Naimov wins a decision as he should have. That felt appropriate to me. The reason this says Bogdan the Bulldog is because he's little. He is small. He's too small for this weight class. But he continued to move forward. He continued to try to shoot takedowns. He got after it. He was tenacious. He doesn't stop. So I said tenacious instead of tenacious. I fully understand why people were picking and betting on Bogdan. And yeah, any bet that loses is a bad bet. But I don't think this was necessarily a bad bet because Bogdan showed he will fight for your money. He has the skills to hang. I obviously was on the Naimov side. I had him in a parlay. And my logic was, I think Naimov is just this much better everywhere. And that is basically what we got. He was just this much better everywhere. Winning, he got taken down, but then he won the scramble. He had some success in the feet. He was just a hair better everywhere. But if Bogdan lost some of the muscle, and I know he already came down in weight, so he's already moved down a weight class. If he drops muscle and goes down even farther, could be crazy, but that's another 10 pounds, which is probably not feasible. But if he just continues to work on that cardio and the pressure and get in people's faces and get after it and shoot takedowns, work on the control, he's going to win a lot of fights in this division. So Naimov was the pick. Naimov won. Naimov was the bet. But Bogdan, to me, leaving this fight was impressed. I left this impressed with Bogdan. Less than I was. I expected Naimov to win just a slight hair better everywhere, and that's what we got. But I didn't expect Bogdan to just be getting after it the entire time. Then we had the fight of the night. Again, I am filming this before they announced the bonuses. And if somehow these two gentlemen, if both of them don't get a bonus, what the hell are we doing here? What are we doing? This was a wild back and forth fight, and it was exciting as hell. We had Nazim Sadikov take on Nicholas Mata. And if you haven't seen the fights, well, I guess you're listening to me now, so I'm going to tell you what's happened. But if you didn't see the fights and you just saw the results, oh, Nazim knocked out Nicholas Mata. I knew it. Nazim was the better striker. Betsam had a bet on Nazim by KO. It was dicey. It was dicey because early on in that fight, it was clear Nicholas Mata was lightning fast and hit hard as shit. And at one point, he had Nazim in a little bit of trouble. Had him against the cage, and it was... Michael Bisping said this, and I don't know if this was just an exaggeration and he just made up a random number or what, but he said, you ate a 75 punch combination against the cage. What was going through your head? And it felt, if it wasn't truly 75 and Michael Bisping was exaggerating, it looked like 75 because Nazim was against the cage like this, and it was just Nicholas Mata just rah, 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 rah. Nazim couldn't even fire back. There wasn't an opening to send it back. He just literally was rolling like this with everything. If this was at a different athletic commission and there was a different referee and they stopped it, there's not a person on this planet that would have disputed that stoppage. It was insane, the amount of strikes that Nazim took against the cage. I think the only reason it wasn't stopped is because there was movement. He wasn't just like this, like he literally was moving. But it was wildly exciting. It was so fun to watch. And Nicholas Mata got after it. He threw so many punches that he quite literally punched himself out. He quite literally punched himself out. I mean, it was a straight up sprint of the hardest punches he could possibly throw. Left, right, as hard as he could. He punched himself out. And from that point on, because he punched himself out, Nazim started to take over. Nazim was always a very good, very technical fighter. Always. But once your arms are just dead and heavy as hell and you can't throw them back and Nazim's coming at you clean and technical with his wits about him, I mean, that's what's going to happen. So Nazim ended up winning by KO. But the reality is, the reason he was able to win by KO is because he was in so much trouble and Nicholas Lanas ended so many strikes so quickly that he completely gassed himself out. This was an exciting back and forth fight. And Nicholas Mata, you didn't get the win, but this was an exciting fight. Like, this is what we need. How many people sit in a chair like this and do some thumbnail like, UFC's cooked. UFC sucks now. UFC's the worst. Oh, UFC 317's mid. Like, because it gets clicks. And the reason it gets clicks is because, A, people love negativity. Negativity will always do better. Just go check any comment section of any video. It's more negative comments than positive on most anything. Go look at a cooking channel on YouTube. The negative comment, oh, that's burnt. Anywhere. The negativity does more than the positivity. So that's one reason why those videos tend to do pretty well with clicks, right? People want to wallow together and complain together. You're right. Yeah, the UFC does suck now. The other reason is the UFC kind of sucks now. A little bit. While I am a diehard fight fan, as I explained earlier, and I am very pleased there's fights every week, and I grew up in an era where you got a pay-per-view once every other month. Every other month, a couple times a year, you got a pay-per-view. And fight nights didn't exist. Fight nights didn't come out till much later. Much later. So I'm loving this new era of fights every weekend. But what happened is a little watered down. To do fights every single weekend, you got to have a lot of shitty fighters on your roster. It's too new of a sport. We're probably a full generation away from having top-tier talent so that the roster, top to finish, doesn't have a whole bunch of fucking Klaudia Sygulas and Irina Alekseevas on it, right? We're probably a generation away from that. So my point here is you get somebody like Nicholas Mata who will get after it. Yes, he lost the fight, and now his record, what did his record fall to? Now he's 15-6. That's not a great record. He's 15-6 with exciting fights on that record. Somebody that will just absolutely get after it. There should always, and there probably will be, a home for him on the UFC roster. Because when people and fans and videos are getting hundreds of thousands of views just bitching about the UFC, that's all those videos are, just sitting there bitching. And people are like, you're right, cook. Fire emoji. That's you. That was your Pride Month snap praising the negativity video. In that world, you get somebody like Nicholas Mata, win or lose, comes out there, guns blazing, got to keep him on your roster. Congratulations to both of these dudes. I know only one of them won. Congratulations to both of them. Because you both won in the fans' eyes, meaning who watched that and was like, I hate Nicholas Mata? You can't. You went out there, you got after it. Then we had Motobek Orobai just running through Tafik Musayev. Couple of things here. Tafik Musayev, local guy. They scooped him up from the depths of hell. And yeah, he had a couple of high-level wins in other organizations. He hasn't fought in a few years. He's a local guy. They threw him on the card. I didn't quite know how ready he would be or would not be. The safety parlay was going to be Tagir and Motobek. I had that parlay. I was going to make that the safety parlay. And the one and only reason I did not is because I know how good Tafik is, and I was a little worried about Motobek. And what we got was a catch weight. We got a much larger Motobek, basically saying, hey, I'm not going to make weight. I'm not going to make weight, so let's do this at 165 pounds instead of 155. So yeah, Tafik Musayev, who hasn't fought in 2 years and got the opportunity of his lifetime, said, yeah, let me do that. So he did. And then Motobek picks him up. What's funny about this picture is Motobek doesn't even get a takedown off of this. He picks him up clean. Tafik lands on his feet, doesn't get a takedown. Motobek gets the takedown after Tafik throws a kick and Motorbek catches it, gets it to the ground, covers, they scramble back to their feet. He catches another kick, they get to the ground, and then he puts in the Kimura, one of the nastiest Kimuras I've seen in an octagon, and that was it. Motorbek ran through him. There was really no success on the other side, but the question is, are catchweights cheating? Because you don't go up 10 freaking pounds on a win. Like, if you're missing weight by 2-3 pounds and you have some wild excuse about this, that, the other thing, maybe we'll listen, right? Maybe we'll listen. 10 pounds, like a couple right before the weigh-ins, that was a plan. That was a plan. That wasn't an accident. That wasn't, hey, this weight cut's harder than we thought. We didn't fly here till Tuesday and whatever it is, right? That's not what that is. He's having a hard time getting the weight off. That was a plan. You planned on doing that. So I had Motorbek in a parlay. Happy and great. The guy won. Needed the money. So great. Good for him. But catchweights at this point got to be cheating. And I don't know what the UFC is going to give a shit. They care when it's Kelvin Gastelum missing weight. I don't think they gave a shit here, though. Then we had Curtis Blaydes looking like shit. Curtis Blaydes looking like shit. First of all, he got his first takedown in 3 years. And the funniest part about that, listen, you guys watch these videos. Some of you watch just for, something to listen to while you're at work. Other of you watch because you're diehard fight fans. You want to absorb all the content you can. And some of you are not only diehard fight fans, but do an enormous amount of research, right? And that's usually the vocal group. And to see and listen to Michael Bisping and the rest of the table crew talk about Curtis is definitely going to wrestle here. He's going to come into this fight and he's going to wrestle. And yeah, he did wrestle. Okay, I get it. He did wrestle. But to have them talk about that nonstop was insane to me because Curtis Blaydes has not attempted a takedown in 3 years. Hasn't even attempted a takedown in 3 years. So when they were like, he's going to go all in on wrestling, it's like, what indication do you have that that's going to be the case? And ultimately, he got a takedown early. He did go in on the wrestling, and then he stopped, and then he got his face bashed in, and I think he got a gift of a decision. This felt very much like Kuniev should have won this fight. To me, this was a 29-28, because look at the face of Curtis Blaydes. If this was in Las Vegas, in a commission where nobody gives a shit about wrestling, takedowns mean quite literally nothing, and damage is the only thing that matters, Kuniev wins this fight. I thought he won this fight. So this would have been another underdog. If the decisions went all the way that I thought they should have gone, Kuniev would have won. Azat Maksum probably would have won. So now all of a sudden we have 7 underdogs win and only 5 favorites win. And this would have been a wild fight card. I had no bets whatsoever on Curtis Blaydes. None at all. I said I feel like his career's on the downslide. I can't trust this guy. And the question I put out there on Twitter, and now obviously we heard Curtis Blaydes say he tore his MCL or something like that in the first round. He's not a doctor. He doesn't have an MRI, but he knows his knee felt weird. So, okay, fine. But I tweeted, I said, hey, does this performance, which was an objectively dog shit performance, this is the number 5 heavyweight on the planet, goes toe-to-toe and gets a gift decision against a Contender Series alumni in a UFC debut. That should not have been the case. That should not have been the case. Does this take away from Tom Aspinall's record? Because Tom also beat Sergey Pavlovich. That guy kind of fucking sucks now too. So now it's like Curtis Blaydes, who kind of sucks, Sergey Pavlovich, who kind of sucks. Is Tom Aspinall as good as we say? And I know the Tom Aspinall fans are absolutely rabid. So my answer is yes, this doesn't take away from that. But I am curious what most people think. And look at it objectively. Don't just be a rabid one. Guys, you've got to get out of the tunnel vision. It's okay to expand and listen to other shit and process it and then put your own thoughts back. That is absolutely okay. Curtis Blaydes looked like fucking shit. I don't think he should have won this decision. And this fight was not what it was supposed to be either. Fiziev and Bahamondes seemed like a good fight because the fans went crazy. And this was a reminder. You know what is funny? We go all the way back to the beginning of this video, and I said we had 10 decisions out of 12 fights. And I was still entertained. I still enjoyed myself. And it might be because it's the middle of the day, so I'm not up till 2 a.m. waiting for this shit to end. Or it might be because there were fans. If we had the exact same fights, but it was in the Apex, Can we all agree that this fight card would have sucked and everybody's clickbait video would be like, worst fight of all time, Apex is destroying the UFC? That would be it. The negativity wins, and that's what it would be. That would be the narrative. But because there were fans and they were cheering and they were loud, this wasn't that bad of a card. And it should be a reminder to the UFC, like, hey, going to these places, you don't need to go all over the world. Like, I love when they go to other parts of the world. You don't need to go all over to the world. But hitting these regional cities and giving them events is not only better for your product long-term because you're reaching more people, but also better for the fans watching at home because hearing the crowd noise directly affects my entertainment. Directly affects it. When I hear the crowd go crazy, you get a little hyped. Not that pin drop Apex bullshit. This fight was benefited from the crowd noise because it was not a very good fight. There were no meaningful exchanges. The only meaningful things that happened were when Rafael wrestled. And I keep doing Rafa instead of Rafa. It is what it is. When Rafael wrestled is the only sort of like very clear, meaningful things that happened in this fight. That's it. Nobody was floored by strikes. Nobody did any real damage. It was the wrestling. Bahamondes shot a few takedowns, which I don't know why he's wasting his fucking time. He has 0 takedowns in his career. 0. He's tried. He can't get them. So you're going to try against a guy like Rafael who actually has good takedown defense? Terrible game plan. And it's crazy that Bahamondes is 6'3", does nothing with that reach. Nothing. He does not use his reach. It's crazy. It's crazy. He needs to go to a real boxing gym, not an MMA gym. Go to a boxing gym and just let them work with you on range management. Dude, professional boxers at a high level could have a 2-inch reach, advantage, and they make it look like a 1.5 feet. Bahamondes quite literally has a 1.5 feet, and it looks like nothing. It doesn't matter. It looks like nothing. Go there. Learn the range management, how to pop in, how to pop out. Turn your body, just pump the jab, stay in his face. You are so long, he shouldn't be able to get to you. But he got to him. Striking-wise, it was kind of back and forth. Obviously, it felt like Fiziev was a little cleaner, hit a little harder. But ultimately, it was the takedowns that made this a very clear, one-sided fight. Main event was a little... See, I'm about to say it was a little anticlimactic, but if you look at the stats... Khalil Rountree dropped Jamahal Hill 3 times in the 4th round. I think 3 times in the 4th or the 3rd round alone. He floored him. Now, Jamahal popped right back up, but he floored him a few times. He chopped his legs up so bad the guy could barely walk, and anytime he changed positions and put weight on one leg or the other, he was struggling. Khalil Rountree very clearly won this fight. 50-45 sounded good. There was 2 50-45s and then 1 49-46. 50-45 sounded fine to me. Khalil Rountree won this fight. It was not a barn burner by any means. It was speed and athleticism versus a fucking... Look at this. Okay. Look at that stomach. Let's look at Jamahal Hill. He's blocking the head kick. Look at his gut. He's got a fupa. His gut is hanging over his pants. And it's not like he's short for this weight class, right? It's not like it was DC. He's just sort of a short guy, a little thicker. He is tall and skinny. He's 6'4". He should not have a fupa. I don't know if it's an indication of his training. He's kind of always had that body. But it's like, dude, you are now on a 3-fight skid. Let's change some things. A, you're at this Mickey Mouse gym. Go to a real fucking gym. You're the former world champion. Go to a real gym. This Mickey Mouse bullshit. B, they kept talking about he's not doing anything. Like, where's the jab? Like, pump the jab. Do something. You're supposed to be the better boxer. And obviously, right off the rip, Khalil cracked him in the legs a few times. It was like, uh-oh, I got a problem. But this was another situation. You're much longer. You've got the reach advantage. Pump the jab. Pump the jab over and over and over. And if he kicks the leg, fire a right hand. Just fire it. Blindly fire it down the middle. So now every time he kicks, a right hand's coming in his face, and maybe he won't kick as much. So this was a lot of Jamahal Hill not doing much. When we go back to the Oban Elliott breakdown, I was like, this is Ko looking good. This isn't Oban looking like shit. This was, Khalil looked good, but this was a lot of Jamahal looking like shit. He didn't do anything. He didn't do anything. You did not put yourself in a position to win. Like, what did you do? If I'm talking to you right now, what did you do to win, Jamahal? What did you do? What were your little setups? What were the little movements? What was the game plan? What did you do to try to win? If I ask Khalil the same question, it's, I went to go light up his legs. I wanted to slow him down, get rid of the movement, and then I can go up top. That's exactly what Khalil did. What was your plan, Jamahal? And why didn't you do any of it? Your plan certainly wasn't, I'm going to stay busy with the jab and stay in his face. It certainly wasn't, I'm going to circle, I'm going to use the reach. It certainly wasn't, I'm going to threaten fake takedowns and then come up top. What was your game plan? You did quite literally nothing. So I picked Khalil. Khalil was the favorite. He should have been the favorite. He looked like the favorite. This line tightened for a few days during the week to minus 110 across the board, and then it widened again, and it should have. Khalil is just quite literally faster, hits harder, the better, more technical Muay Thai fighter. When Jamahal threw every now and then, you're like, God damn, dude, you have clean, that's clean. We want more of that. So overall, Khalil won. I thought he would win. Jacob hit that bet. Thank God for him. And the night was, let's put it this way, it's 6:15 and I'm done with this video. This is a fantastic night. Next week is UFC 317. If you want to ride into UFC 317 with a couple extra bucks in your wallet, go to WeWantPicks.com/bets. Sign up with any one of our sportsbook partners. Make a deposit. We'll send you $50 as a thank you. We get a one-time commission. We're going to share that with you. You will also get a couple of bucks. Everybody gets to enjoy. Then you can go to the website. Check out the premium offering. It is not just copy-paste bets. I know a vast majority of people assume it's just picks and bets. Well, but your picks. There is a full suite of tools. We have a fight simulator, a tool coded from scratch that simulates fights 100,000 times. And it gives you all the outputs. And you can use that information to find your own spots instead of just copy-pasting. We didn't invent the idea of a fight simulator. There's another one. Go look it up. It's called SaberSim. They charge $100 a month for it. We charge $10. And it includes everything, like the tape index. You want to do your own tape study? By all means, do your own tape study. Watch the fights with your own eyes. The tape study organizes all of that for you. You can see every fighter in the future or in the current card, their full fight history, little red play button, click it, video pops up. We have a brand new DraftKings optimizer. It will build DraftKings fantasy lineups for you, and we built out a whole beginner mode that'll walk you through logical steps to help build the lineups. So you don't know how to use an optimizer, just going to ask you some questions. You can unlock all of that for $10. And that $10 will get you UFC 317, UFC Nashville, I believe, is the Derek Lewis card, UFC 318, and then the Robert Whittaker, Renier de Ridder fight card. That's $2.50 a card. What are we talking about? WeWantPicks.com. Click Become a Member at the top. Next week's UFC 317, I'm very excited for that fight card.